They bought the rights to Star Wars, and they said, let's get rid of George Lucas on this deal because he's bombed out 3 times. He no longer has the magic, and they brought you in.
I don't think that was the strategy. I think that
I do.
No, but what they did was they saw that there was an opportunity. Obviously, I'm sure there were a whole bunch of board meetings and economic, but the truth is that there was a lot of stories still to be told, and so
you hit a home run with Star Trek, which was not an easy thing to do.
No, thanks.
And after you do that, Bob Iger, who runs Disney, says to himself, who the fuck am I going to get to direct Star Wars? I got something here that's worth a lot of money. We paid $4 billion to George Lucas. True? They paid him $4 billion.
Yeah, it was a $4 billion film.
Yeah.
And they approach you and they say, JJ, you're one of the top guys in Hollywood.
Well, it's not exactly. Kathy Kennedy was running Lucasfilm.
By the way, let me compliment you for a second. You know, you could be a real asshole if you wanted to. I'm thinking now between Star Trek and all the TV shows you've produced and everything else. You know, you're in that Spielberg kind of world, aren't you?
No,
don't be humble.
No, that's not a no.
I'm sorry.
But
I'm saying you could walk around and be a real dickwad, but you're not.
Is Spielberg a dickwad?
Of course.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm sure at this point.
He is the absolute greatest.
Do you know him?
I do.
Who is the top Jew director in the world? You or Steven Spielberg? Be honest.
There is no comparison.
Let's ask the people in Orlando.
Yeah, they know. Who tips more, you or Spielberg? No, but seriously, you could be a real animal out there. But from what I hear, you're a good dude. You know what I mean? And you're a family man. And,
thank you.
Is it true you would not work on Star Wars on the weekends? In other words, that was your family time. Is that true?
Well, when I was shooting, I was in London.
Right.
So my family was actually in Los Angeles. I took my daughter there with a friend, and so we were there for 5 months together. But my wife, Katie, and our 2 sons were in Los Angeles.
And what is the longest amount of time you go without seeing Katie?
It was a long time. I mean, when we were there, it was almost 3 months.
No breaks for 3 months?
Oh, it was probably 2 months and a bit. It was way too long.
It is way too long, right?
It was, honestly, here's the thing. It was a disaster because it was horrible for every possible and obvious reason. And we knew that that year was going to be an intense year for a lot of reasons. Star Wars was part of it.
Do you ever say to yourself, as much as listen, being a director and getting to direct a big movie and write it and all that is exciting, but did you ever say to yourself while filming, Jesus Christ, I took on too much? Like, this is like a year that is so intense. I'm not even with my family. Do you get depressed?
Yeah, I'm not a depressed person, but there were times when I just thought this was, I knew what I was committing to. Katie and I both did, and we were both committing to a lot of struggle, and yet. Compared to people who are, in the military, get sent away. Or people,
Understood.
There are a lot of other jobs.
But here's the difference between you and a military guy. You've made a ton of money as a director, and you could retire. And you could not take on a year and be away and all of that.
This was a selfish choice to do this movie. There's no question.
Yeah, and there are times when you're sitting there doing it, you just go, boy, and the pressure to... I mean, talk about the pressure, because Star Wars is such an important franchise.
It is.
They put up hundreds of millions of dollars for the film. The budget's around $400 million or something?
No. It's nowhere near that.
But I'm talking about with advertising and everything else, I think it's around a $400 million investment on Disney's part.
With advertising, it's probably somewhere close to there,
yeah. And so I'm not going to say it all rests on your shoulders. Disney's made this decision. But at the same point, how much interference when you have a $400 million investment, and I'm the guy running Disney?
I was afraid of that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be, a corporate approach to this movie. And I will say, to the unbelievable credit of Bob Iger and Alan Horn, they let us make our movie. And it was, I couldn't believe the extent to which they were...
Are they looking at things? Are they watching rushes? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't, I don't know if they watched every dailies that would come in, but they weren't hands-on. They were very curious. There was a lot of money. It was a big investment. It means so much to the company. But I got to tell you, they were incredibly collaborative.
So when there's that kind of money riding on something, don't you react differently? I mean, do you go to them in the beginning and say, guys, I will direct this movie, but I need a $200 or $300 million shooting budget, the way I'm kind of envisioning this?
Honestly, the way we approached this thing, we knew they needed something, and it needed to be great. They needed to be done in this time frame, all this stuff. But when we were working on the movie, we did everything we could to sort of separate ourselves from all that noise. Because, look, when you signed with Sirius, it was crazy. And everyone's thinking, oh, my God, hundreds of millions of dollars. And my guess is that as much as you're aware of it, you also have to say, well, what am I doing? And look, one step at a time, what choices am I making? So,
in other words, the movie-making process for you, no matter if it's a small film or a big, although lately all you do is these big films, but no matter what the size of the film, you go in with the same attitude. I know how to make a movie. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to sit there and do something different because it's hundreds of millions of dollars.
To me, what was far more important were what the fans of this thing were expecting, the anticipation, and knowing this was going to be a brand new new Star Wars movie for a whole bunch of people, meaning the first one for a lot of people.
Right.
And for a lot of fans, there was going to, and I'm one of them, there would be an expectation of what this thing would be, and how do we balance it and not make a movie that's just for fans, but also make a movie that's going to do what any one of us who loves this franchise would kind of hope and want.
So when you signed on for this thing, you've explained to me before that, hey, I didn't know if I was going to do it. I just come off Star Trek, and and Shatner, oddly enough, had called you a pig for doing for doing the Star Trek franchise and for taking the Star Wars franchise. Why is that? Why did he call you a pig?
First of all, badge of honor. Secondly, I just feel like I think that he was saying in a semi-joking way that and he may be 100% right.
Right.
Too many star titles for one person to work on. And I get it.
Would you ever do a small
If I cast him in Star Wars, he probably wouldn't have said that.
Right. Would you ever do a small, you're doing, the Star Treks and Star Wars, and you got big franchises. Would you ever do one of these small, what they call an independent film for like a $20 million budget?
Of course.
But how do you go back? Now that you know how to direct these big blockbusters.
Honestly, and I know this sounds probably disingenuous, there's very little difference when it comes to the absolute critical job of telling a story. And when you have, here's the thing, it's like everything's relative. So when you make more money, you can buy a larger apartment, but then you discover the apartment you want is X amount of money more than you have or want to spend. It always has the same, there are always the same challenges and struggles. So working on this movie, as challenging as it was, and it really was insanely challenging, but at the same time, the problems of how you tell the story the best possible way were essentially exactly the same as when we did Felicity.
Where would these stories come from?
The story we're telling?
Yeah.
Kathy Kennedy and I first met. We started talking about possibility. Then Larry Kasdan and I wrote the script together. And we literally sat and talked about, what if and what could the story be? What has happened in this world?
When you finish shooting the movie, who do you have to show it to from Disney? Because someone there has got to be in charge and go, hey, I want to see this thing that we just spent a couple $100 million on.
Well, what happened was we finished the cut, and this was months ago, and we showed the first cut, which was still incomplete, but the complete version of the movie, but not the finished version.
Right.
And we showed it to Alan Horn and Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, the three people at Disney who sat with me in the theater, and we screened the movie, and it was horrifying.
Terrible experience because you're nervous.
I'm nervous beyond words. I'm showing this movie that I know is so far from finished. There's not an effect in it, so...
Isn't that dangerous to say to someone? Isn't it dangerous to say to somebody, use your imagination here? Yeah. That's not a good way to show a film.
Because you have no idea what their imagination is showing them.
That's right.
You have no idea.
But they demanded to see it at that point?
Well, they demanded. It was first of all, they spent $4 billion. I can see whatever the hell they want to. But this was really about, showing them where we were. And then being able to say, look, these sequences, we're changing this, we're changing that. And it was a lot of me giving excuses before the screening.
So what happens after you show it to them? Now you're reading their faces, right? You're paranoid. You show that to them. They've seen an unfinished work, which is like showing somebody a painting when it's halfway done.
Yes.
They've seen this unfinished work. You know they can't use their imagination. Are you reading their faces and saying, do they look happy? What do you do?
Yeah, look, not only reading their faces, I'm reading their body language while they're watching it.
Right.
I'm seeing when someone's laughing or smiling. I was seeing behind them. But the truth is, I had more notes than they did. I was writing that I filled a whole pad of stuff that I knew was a disaster and needed to be changed, and they wrote down here and there, and I couldn't tell if they were miserable or and that's just I couldn't tell what they're.
What did they say afterwards? Did they say
it was the biggest relief of my life? And then of course I left, and all I could think was, well, kind of what do they know? They spent $4 billion. They have to love it. It's like I'm so critical on it. Their response was so kind. I'm like, they're just being nice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. No matter how many big movies you make, no matter how much money they make, it doesn't matter. The next movie, you got to prove yourself all over again.
And I don't know how you feel, but I always find it gets harder.
Yes.
Like, for whatever reason, every time I start to work on a script or to direct something, I always find it is more difficult somehow because you can't do that thing you just did.
Right.
And so, I know I've done other stuff. I just don't know how, and I can't understand why it's harder the next time, always.
When you cast the movie, do you start hearing from every actress and actor in Hollywood because everyone wants to be in Star Wars? It's sort of not only if you never work again, you can go to conventions the rest of your life and make money. It really is almost a license for an actor to print money, and also it's a prestige project. You've got some actors in there, some unknowns. You've got, but do you hear from every named person in Hollywood?
We saw a lot of people, but the truth is, it didn't really feel that way. I'm sure that our casting directors did,
right?
But I wasn't getting, calls from them.
I see. When you sit down to start writing the thing, there was originally a screenplay that you worked from, right? You didn't like that.
No, what happened was I came on board. Kathy Kennedy asked if I'd be interested, and when I
How long does it take you to make that decision to do the movie?
Well, I said no. Because
you said no. That's the best thing.
Yeah. But the truth is, I'd done, a Mission Impossible movie, a Star Trek. I didn't want to do another sequel.
Right.
I'm sick of, doing movies with numbers.
Yeah, but I think sequels are so hard. I mean, because there's such fan expectation with sequels.
Yes. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, and as a fan, I'd rather just go to the theater and watch the movie.
Right.
And then Kathy said, can we get together? And so we sat down, and we just started talking about
Kathy's the person from Disney?
Kathy Kennedy, who's one of the great producers of all time.
Yeah.
And I've known her for a while. And we just started talking about what this thing could be. And it
poured out of you.
As we were talking about it, I found myself suddenly on fire about
what did you say in that meeting that turned you on about Star Wars?
Well, we were talking about the idea of these characters and the idea that here's the thing. When George Lucas did Star Wars, he wanted to do Flash Gordon.
Right.
And he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon. And so he created Star Wars. But what's amazing is that the movie that we just did is about 40 years after Star Wars. Star Wars was about 40 years after Flash Gordon.
Right.
And there's this feeling of wanting to continue this. It's like a retro feeling, which I love. I love the feeling I had when I saw these original films.
Wait a second. You mean, in other words, your fantasy was we're gonna find out what happened to Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, what happened 40 years later?
Yeah. Sorry, I changed I didn't answer your question. The answer is when Kathy and I started talking about these characters, the idea that Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia. This is 40 years ago, so for someone who's 19 years old, this is like they're myths. Who knows what they know about them?
Right.
People wouldn't even know maybe who some of these characters are. And the thing that grabbed me, was that feeling of a new, young character. And in the case of this conversation, it was a female character. Didn't know anything about her. But in the conversation, that question of this young woman asking, who is Luke Skywalker? I don't know why, but it made me feel like, fuck, that's so cool. That idea that there would be a discovery. These would be, essentially kids who didn't see Star Wars themselves in this movie, who would be in this universe. But
that turned you on.
Yes, the idea of sort of rediscovering this world that had been created.
JJ, why is there controversy? I swear I don't understand this, and that maybe I don't know enough about Star Wars. I mean, I saw all the movies, but why is there a controversy that you cast a black guy as a stormtrooper?
You tell me.
Why can't there be a black stormtrooper? I don't. But there seems to be people going, "Oh my God, there's a black stormtrooper that can't possibly be."
Yeah, I know, right?
Why though? Why couldn't there be a black stormtrooper? I don't understand.
Neither did I. And
do you understand it at all?
No. And all I know is that John Boyega is extraordinary in the movie.
Yeah, but why are so many people complaining about this?
Where do the stormtroopers come from that they can't be black?
I think the people who are complaining about that probably have bigger problems than there's a black stormtrooper.
Why did you? So you're not concerned about that? Why?
No.
Why is there such secrecy about the fact that you broke your back during the filming of Star Wars? You literally broke your back.
There's no secret. I talked about it on the Daily Show. There's no secrecy. What happened was that when this hydraulic door came down, and it pushed down the person who happened to be right there under it, who happened to be Harrison Ford.
Right.
So
he got hurt.
Not the ideal scenario. His leg broke.
Wow.
At the ankle, and his ankle went sideways, like 90 degrees. Really hurt.
Scary, yeah.
And so I'm there with one of my idols, who's now down on the ground. Not an ideal scenario for him. So I go and try and lift up this door, as any of us would, with a kind of like Hulk, I'm going to lift the car up off the person I love energy.
Retarded strength.
Yeah, right.
Yes, yes, and you go over to lift it.
What I discover in doing that are two things. One is a hydraulic door cannot be lifted.
Yeah.
Unless it wants to be lifted. And secondly, bones break. So I feel this pop in my lower back. And I think, fuck, what is that? Is that a muscle? Whatever. And all I'm trying to do is help my friend. And seconds later, the door is opened up by a gentleman who has a giant button. And all day my back is hurting, and of course all I care about is the fact that Harrison has
broken his ankle.
And God knows what else. You just don't know at that moment.
Right.
You have no idea what's going on. And anyway, that night, hospital, thank God he's going to be okay, and he ends up coming back 3 months later to shoot basically his whole scene, his whole role in the film, and he's fine. But about a week later...
You had to wait 3 months for him to shoot his role?
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean,
we went to schedule. We shot everything we could up front, and then Harrison went off to recover and did so amazingly and came back just on fire.
Right.
But a week after, I go to the doctor and get a scan, and the doctor is explaining to me, this London doctor is explaining how I probably have the strain. He's looking at my scan, and I see his face go white, and he goes, "Oh my God, your back is broken."
Oh my God!
I'm like, what? He goes, you fractured your L4, and he shows me this thing, and so I have to wear this brace.
And you're walking around?
I'm walking around like an idiot.
Oh.
So for 2 months, I'm wearing this brace under my shirt, and I didn't tell anyone on the crew because I didn't want anyone to be like.
When you're writing this, the Star Wars movie, and you think, okay, I want to cast Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill as their character, which is kind of cool. Like it's kind of like what you did with Star Trek, bringing back Nimoy.
Well, they were already on board, by the way.
They were already on board.
Yeah.
So in other words, you couldn't have written this thing with them in it until you get them. When you say on board, until you work out a financial arrangement with them, right?
Yeah. Luckily, before I got there, a number of things happened, including they'd already been approached and accepted the deal.
Because it could have been a disaster if you had written the script.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're trying to negotiate with Harrison Ford.
Oh, it'd be horrible.
So their salaries were locked in.
I guess they had figured all that stuff out before I showed up.
Right.
That would have been horrible.
How crucial are they to the story? Are they very crucial?
Yeah, hugely important. I mean, the movie is about this new cast of characters.
Right.
But their roles in the movie are very, very important.
Did you go to Nimoy's funeral?
I did.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Did you give a speech?
No.
You should have.
Well, next time I will.
Next time.
Next, Christopher Shatner.
I love that man.
Yeah, but Nimoy.
Oh, he
was great to work on with
he
Star
was
Trek.
the greatest. He was one of the sweetest and most. He was just the dream version of a gentleman.
When you say that, in other words, when you directed him, he was fun. He
Say this: there was a day when we were shooting on the first Star Trek movie that we did, and he was going down this very narrow corridor of this spaceship set, and he fell. This is another accident, so it was perfect timing. And he hit his nose, and he broke his nose.
Oh, dear.
And he had a gash on his nose, and I thought, holy crap, this is a
disaster.
A disaster. And he's like, 70s. I just felt horrible. And
he's in his 70s at that point.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to kill myself.
What are you doing to these people?
That's the thing, right? And Leonard, after about, he was kind of, shaken up and everything. And about 20 minutes later, he's like, let's keep going. And we kept shooting. And they put makeup over, and we shot like 4 more hours with this guy. He was just a rock star.
Wow.
Oh, he's a Vulcan. They don't have any emotion.
No
Oh, the Queen
pain.
blood.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, that's so a very sad moment when you lose a guy like Leonard Nimoy, who's a good guy.
He was the greatest, and his wife's amazing.
And what about the opposite of that? When you get a guy like Leonard Nimoy, who's such a gentleman and easy to work with, then there's the opposite. You get actors who are a royal pain in the ass, where you say to yourself, "Oh my God, why did I cast this guy? He's making this experience horrible for me." Right?
There are those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not very often.
When that happens, you just got to suck it up, right? And deal with it.
You do. I mean, there have been, very few, but there have been on occasion people that you just think life's too short.
Have there been people in your career, and I know you're not going to name them, but I wish you would, but have there been people in your career who you've said, I will never work with that asshole again?
Yes.
You have.
But mostly because someone is nuts.
Right.
Not because they're...
Not because they can't act.
Not because or that they're mean necessarily.
Right.
But they're just too much.
Too much of a head case.
Yes. It's like, what the hell? It's like, just get your shit together and do your job.
Do you still get the performance out of them that you want?
Shockingly, you do.
Oh.
And it's the reason that they keep working, because they're actually, you say action and they're great.
Right.
They say cut, and you want to get the hell out of it.
Right.
They're miserable.
But there are people who are so good, even though they're assholes, you will work with them again because they're that good.
I guess so, but the fact is there are really good people who are kind as well.
Is it true that you showed the Star Wars movie to a guy who was dying? In other words, somebody sent you a letter saying, hey, there's a guy dying, he wants to see Star Wars before
there
he
was
dies.
this gentleman, Daniel Fleetwood, who was sadly terminally ill and had reached out to, in many ways, Twitter, but also personally, to see this movie. And we've been very lucky to get to show the film to a handful of people who have been in unfortunate situations.
Did you feel manipulated by that? In other words, there are some people who will even use that to get to see a movie.
Yes.
And they're full of shit.
These are not people who are looking to screw us over.
You had them vetted.
Yes. And he passed away, I think, 5
Right,
years
I was going to say, that guy owned up and died.
Did you, right, he put his money where his mouth was.
He owned up. I've spoken to the people who have seen the film both before and after, and it's been very sobering and an honor to get to do it. I mean, the fact that these people care enough about this world that George Lucas created to want to see this movie.
But JJ, did any of the dying people come to you and say, thank you for showing this to me, but boy, oh boy, this was a huge disappointment. I don't know why I bothered with this. I mean, I only have a few days left to live.
I'm so sorry
and
I
you
did this.
fucked me over. Has anyone said that
I've
to
not
you?
gotten that reaction.
You did not get that.
Yet.
So in other words, whoever has seen this film so far, and very few people have seen it, have you done test screenings?
I've done sort of casual friends and family.
That's it?
Yeah.
In other words, none of that testing where they go out and say, gee, what do you think?
It's very hard to do it on a movie that is getting the kind of scrutiny and attention this one is.
Right. And how tight is security around the movie?
All I know is there are people who are walking around with, hands on their ears, and, there's a lot of, Disney has made sure that this thing is pretty lock and key.
Do you put a movie out like this in 3D as well?
It will be in 3D as well, yeah.
It will?
Yeah.
Do you like seeing movies in 3D personally?
Not really.
I don't either.
Yeah.
What is it with the 3D? Does it annoy you that you had to make a 3D version?
It doesn't annoy me. In fact, there are certain moments that I think are actually really fun in 3D, but I prefer to watch a movie without the glasses on.
Yeah.
But there are new
Do you put the glasses over your glasses?
I do.
You do. Yeah, I mean, what am I going to do?
But there's a new thing.
Not a good look.
But there's new like laser projection systems
Yeah.
that actually allow the film to be so bright that when you wear the glasses, the movies don't feel dim like they used to.
Right.
So when you're sitting and planning the movie, do you have to sit there and plan it for 3D?
Look, there are moments here and there where I think, oh, that moment will be particularly fun in 3D, but I don't.
Because the lasers will come right at you and all of
There's that
that.
kind of stuff, but I don't sit there and say, how to make the best 3D movie ever. I try to, work on it from the point of view of the story and 2D and 3D comes
JJ,
later.
I promised Mick the Nerd, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he's sort of a new whackpacker. I promised him he could come in and ask you a very nerdy
It would be
question.
an honor.
And I don't know what the questions are,
Do I
but...
have to answer it?
No.
Okay, good.
But let Mick the
You
Nerd...
probably won't even have the answer.
And I wouldn't even let Mick the Nerd that close to you,
Really?
all right?
All right.
And he's not even dying, although maybe he is, I don't know. Mick the Nerd, come in. I promised you I would let you ask J.J. Abrams a question. There he is. That's Mick the Nerd. And Mick, how important is it to you as a nerd? And you go to all the Comic-Cons, like you are an uber fan. Is Star Wars more important to you than any other franchise?
It's pretty much equal to every franchise that I love, and I'm really glad that it's coming out. It's a
Name your top 5 franchises.
Star Wars, DC, Marvel, One Piece, Dragon Ball. Yeah.
All right. So Star Wars is right up there.
Yep.
What is it you love about Star Wars so much?
Just about the best of Star Wars is the Fall of Grace theme. It's like you look at all of the original trilogy. It's basically like the Empire's main thing is like the
All right, I'm sorry I asked that question. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Is J.J. important? Is J.J. Abrams an important figure to you? Is he the Spielberg? Is he right up there?
I keep mine. I'm right here.
Right. Is he a Spielberg?
He's good. I'll say that. I don't
Right.
have anything negative to say
Right.
about him.
Are the people at the Comic-Cons and everything excited about J.J.'s version coming out?
Oh yes, very.
There's a lot of anticipation, right?
You were happy when JJ was named?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the question you're going to ask J.J., I know you've been working on these questions for at least 2 weeks. Am I correct? All right, go ahead and ask J.J.
Is that a
your
whole
question.
list of questions?
Well, he's got a list, but let's see how it
okay.
goes. All right, ask one. Ask your most important one first.
All right. How many Ewoks did Kylo Ren have to kill to get Vader's helmet off of Endor?
Oh, my.
But is that like trivia? I mean, I
Yeah,
thought you were going to
he's
ask...
testing JJ.
It seems like you test. I thought you were going to ask him like something about the filming of the movie.
There is there's no proper answer to that question. It's a funny question, and I appreciate the question, but there's no answer. And this is about
What was the question?
he's asking how many Ewoks, this little thing
Yeah, I know what an
Yeah.
Ewok is.
that Kylo Ren is the villain of this movie had to kill in order to get Vader's mask, which is in the trailer of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a horrible question. By the way, JJ took out a taser gun. Why? Are you afraid of him? He's a very harmless guy.
Next question. Here we
Yeah. All right.
What do you think's more astrodynamic, the TIE Fighter or the X-Wing? From going back to the first one.
TIE Fighter, well, there's no drag in space, right? So it wouldn't really matter much. But I would probably say the X-Wing.
It's good you can answer these, JJ, because
Did you know there was no dragon space, Mark?
Personally, I think
Mick.
Oh, sorry, Nick.
I like astrodynamic.
Hey, Mick, are you okay with the stormtrooper being black? There seems to be controversy about this. Yeah, let's find out. Why are people upset? You see, Mick could answer this. Why are people upset that there's a black
Because they're
stormtrooper?
clones, yeah?
Well, yeah, that, and also because they're secretly racist and trying to make a big deal out of it.
You feel some fans are racist.
Oh yes, it's a whole thing. It's the same thing.
A lot of racist fans?
But JJ mentioned that stormtroopers are clones. Is that correct?
Well, why don't you explain?
They were originally clones, but after the Clone Wars, the Emperor stopped production of the main clones.
How old are you again, Mick?
25.
All right. How old?
25.
You're 25?
You look a lot
You
older.
look like you're 40, honestly. No offense. Because of the beard, the big beard.
Yeah.
Are you shaving that beard soon?
Yeah, the 1st of January.
All right, good. All right. So, JJ, you realize, and by the way, I'll teleport and make out of here in just a minute.
All good.
Right. But you see how important this film is by mix of reaction, right?
I'm telling you, this
Yeah.
is a big deal.
What are you looking for in the film? Is there anything that will disappoint you, Mick, if you go to see Star? Will you go the first day? Will you be online?
Nah, I'm kind of I'll probably go the next day.
What
Will you
is the-
be in costume?
No.
No.
I'm shocked. JJ, aren't they nervous that too many people show up in costume?
I've not heard concerns about that, but I'm sure
I
it happens
heard
somewhere.
movie theater franchises are a little
is that
concerned
right?
security-wise.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, for the debut or the premiere with the costumes.
What would
want
be
people to have fun.
Mick? What would be a good costume to wear to the premiere if you were to go in costume?
I'd honestly say Wookiee, like Chewbacca, just anything with a mask for me is maybe a Jedi, but I feel like that's too much of a stretch.
You mentioned that, and this is my last question for you, Mick, and maybe JJ should hear you. You're worried that if the dialogue is too cheesy, the movie will not be good enough for you.
I would say so. It's too many cliches, the prequel saga. It's just crap dialogue like Padme and Anakin's romance.
Poor JJ's going to have to be criticized and analyzed by all of the nerds at Comic-Con.
You know the great thing is, I just found out that him and his partner, they're flying all over the world to go to Comic-Cons.
Who? JJ?
Yeah.
No kidding.
I think Brian said he's going to Comic-Con like in South America.
I'm not going.
You didn't know that, huh? Right. Hey, Nick, you ever jerk off to Princess Leia in the original Star Wars?
Not really, no.
No? Shocking. I thought for sure you did.
I'm one of a kind, man.
All right, JJ, there's one of the big fans.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mick, I came through for you. I let you ask questions, and I realized now it was a mistake. That's okay. Thank you, Mick. Mick the nerd, everybody. Everyone loves him.
It's really important to know how many Ewoks were killed.
By the way, Mick, thank you for dressing up for the appearance. Mick's a good guy. I like Mick. Mick the nerd, and he's one of the new guys. Yeah, very nice guy. And you know what? He is probably one of the biggest fans of the Star Wars franchise. Wow. And his devotion, and you see he even knows the minutia. When you were writing this thing, you had to be aware of every Star Wars character and the history. Did you take months to learn the history?
There's a guy named Pablo Hidalgo who works at Lucasfilm, who is the sort of keeper of all arcane details of Star Wars. So
is that right?
So sometimes 3 times a day, other times once a week, whatever, I would send him an email asking him questions about just this kind of thing. And
it's getting very complicated. Like, I didn't even know who Darth Nihilus was.
And by the way, there's a whole extended universe that he also needed to reference, and things that frankly would be impossible to read all of and watch all of.
Will this be the biggest movie of all time, box office-wise, JJ? Be honest. Are you hoping for that?
No, there's no way. I mean, look, like you were saying before I came in, the predictions are all preposterous and horrible.
Why are you purposely not showing Luke Skywalker in the trailer? What is going on there? There's something up there.
Here's the thing. I really want to make sure that we're not ruining the movie for people that are not seeing too much of it before it comes out. I just feel like I hate when I go and see a trailer and I feel like I've just seen a whole movie in calculated form, and it makes me nuts.
Right.
And yet that's what sells the movie, so it's a catch-22.
You don't have to do that to sell the movie. I mean, you don't have to show the whole story.
Not to Star Wars, yeah.
Well, honestly, I don't know for anything. I mean, I'd rather be asking questions and feel like they've been answered for me. So,
you're absolutely right. I notice when
I hate that.
I see these trailers that literally I feel as if I've seen the entire movie.
And then often you see the movie and you go, yep.
All the best scenes were in the trailer.
I saw this thing already.
I don't know why they do that.
Yeah.
This is very, very exciting for you.
Now, where are you going to see the movie?
I don't know. Listen, I know I don't have a shot of seeing it at home. Oh, I'm at the point I don't even like going to screenings.
Really?
Yeah. But I think I should go, right?
We can have it played while you're sleeping.
I need to see it. Can you set up a screening at my apartment?
Yes, whatever you want.
Well, in that case,
I'll do anything you want.
I would love that.
We can do that.
Oh, you kidding? Oh my God, I can't imagine. I'm excited about it. I am.
Oh, you're very kind.
I really am. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for you. You're a great guy.
Yeah, I got ready by watching the original.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Do you have Did you watch all of them?
I've watched all of them, of course.
Do you have a favorite?
The first one is my favorite.
Yeah. It was great. And I like the first 3. I do. I like them all.
Yeah, but if I had to pick one, I'd say the very first one.
You know what? Yeah, I've heard a story about you. This has nothing to do with Star Wars, but you loved The Exorcist when you were growing up, when you were a kid dreaming about being a filmmaker. You wrote a letter to the makeup artist, Dick Smith. Dick Smith did all the makeup on The Exorcist, which was an incredible makeup job, right?
Unbelievable.
So you write him a letter, and he sent you a tongue.
Yeah.
A tongue from the movie The Exorcist.
That's right. Dick Smith was someone who he did, Godfather, he did Altered States, Scanners, and The Exorcist. So I sent him this fan letter, and I was, 13 years old, and I received in the mail this little box. I still have it, and it says Dick Smith, Larchmont, New York. And I open the thing up. There's a little handwritten note, and there's a foam latex tongue.
Wow.
And he says, "Here's an old but clean tongue from The Exorcist. Put a little peanut butter in it and stick it in your." And I'm like, holy crap. So I start this correspondence with him, asking all these questions. This is before there were behind-the-scenes featurettes and all sorts of, couldn't download information. So he told every secret. He was so generous, and it turns out that I was among 100 or plus fans who would constantly send him letters, and he would respond to each of us. He introduced me to Guillermo del Toro in 1990.
Guillermo del Toro, a great director.
Who also was, he was this, upcoming Mexican director who sent the same kind of notes to Dick, and Dick would respond. And he was just the most generous.
What an incredibly generous guy to send a 13-year-old a tongue from The Exorcist.
But he would answer. I mean, dozens of letters. I mean,
it was like getting a master course in filmmaking.
And one day, this is so crazy. I think I was 15 or 16. I was in at LaGuardia. My mom and I went to pick up my father, who was flying in, and I see a man come off the plane, and I'm thinking, holy crap, I think that's Dick Smith. And I never met him before, and he had 4 fingers on his left hand, because at one point he was working on a job and he jumped off a train and his ring got caught and it basically stripped his finger.
Oh my God.
So he had the bone cut off, right? So looking, he only had 4 fingers on his left hand, and I was like, it's a Hitchcock movie. I'm like watching this man and thinking, if he has 4 fingers,
that's him.
That's Dick Smith.
Yeah.
And he has 4 fingers, and I go up to him, and this is like, he to me is like the Rolling Stones. He's like the Beatles. I'm like, holy, no one cares.
Right.
And I'm like, Mr. Smith, and he was the sweetest guy. And I actually got to work with him years later on a movie.
Was it your mom? Forever Young?
Yeah.
You worked with him on that?
Yeah, he did the old age makeup with Greg Hanum on Mel Gibson.
You hired him because you knew him?
Smith. He was actually in retirement, and we actually got him out of retirement to work on that movie.
And you were 13. And didn't your mom say, "Who's this Dick?" Who's
my mom said, "Who's this man named Dick? And why does he keep sending you tongues?"
Yeah, did he think, I thought, like, man, something weird is going on.
Yeah, something
I think
wild is up.
Yeah, with our kids, I think if a stranger started sending my kids a tongue in the mail, I'd be very concerned.
Yeah.
Did you watch the TV show The Strain?
I've not seen it.
Guillermo del Toro's The Strain?
Here's the thing.
You would like it.
The last few years have been so crazy focused on. There are so many things. Friends of mine have said, "Oh my God, have you seen? You must have seen," and I've missed everything. So
could you ruin yourself? You've got a great imagination. You write all these great films. You direct. Can't you ruin your sense of creativity by being too busy? In other words, if you get too busy, you burn out.
Yes.
You can't come up with the good stories because you're constantly working. Don't you need some downtime to become creative?
I am so excited about not knowing what I'm going to do next, and just sort of exploring and figuring it out. What you're saying is exactly right.
You
So
need
that's
time.
exactly where you are right now? No new projects on the horizon?
But aren't you lying to me because you really do have a lot of projects in the works?
Bad Robot, our company, does have a bunch of stuff, in the works in TV and film, but I don't have a project in writing and directing.
Did you buy the rights to the Martin Luther King story? Are you working on something?
Is he going to become a superhero?
He's going to be a Star Wars character.
Tavis Smiley has an incredible book that he wrote that's about the last year of his life. And
the guy from public television?
Yeah, the talk show host.
That guy? He wrote a book about Martin Luther King?
Fantastic.
And you bought the book?
Well, he came to me and asked if I'd be interested in working with him on it.
Are you going to do that?
Yeah, I'm producing it with him.
So how is that you're not doing anything? Don't you need some downtime?
Well, there's a big difference between being a producer on a show that will have its own director, some producers, some writers, and
in other words, you can
writing
fuck
and
off
directing
behind the scenes and maybe call these guys once a week.
Yeah.
That's good.
No. But, it's a very different kind of a responsibility.
And then you're working on a biopic about Thomas Edison. Is that correct?
Sort of. There's look, here's the thing. We have a bunch of stuff in development, and it's hardly a true life biopic. It's
Who is playing
hyper-real version.
Thomas Edison?
Me. We're here to announce it.
Tavis Smiley's also playing Thomas Edison.
Isn't it true? Now, I don't know if this is true or not.
Yeah.
That you're producing the Martin Luther King thing, but it's Martin Luther King versus the tongue from The Exorcist, where it's in the future. It's 40 years. He hasn't been assassinated.
It's the near future.
Yeah, and the tongue
Is
comes
this
to
like
life.
that Lincoln Vampire Slayer thing?
Tell me something. And tell me another project you're working on that nobody knows about. It's a top secret project that that has caught your imagination.
Top secret?
Give me a top secret one.
I don't have
give me something.
I don't have a top secret thing. I mean, honestly, I've been so focused on the Star Wars movie that I'm not.
You're in the Star Wars frame of mind.
Star Wars frame of
When
mind.
will you let go of Star Wars?
This is something that's been going on for a few years. I couldn't be more excited about this thing finally coming out.
And when will you see it with an audience, finally?
I think the premiere will be the first time with a
Really?
full audience.
Where is this premiere, in L.A.?
Yeah.
I see.
And there's one there'll be one in London afterwards. Yeah.
I wonder who will be there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And what were you
Want
doing
to
shooting in London?
No, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to go to L.A. I won't even leave my apartment.
God forbid.
That's right.
Come on.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
It's exciting. This is exciting.
You know what? I mean, how are you shooting the future in London or the past, whatever it is?
The very first one, your favorite, was shot in London.
It was.
It was.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
there you go.
All right, look, J.J. Abrams is very excited. His movie Star Wars, The Force Awakens. He directed it, he wrote it. He needs you to see it. Because you know what? Everyone's assuming it's going to be big, but you got to go.
Assuming everyone will see it.
And if
yes.
it's not big, then they won't have the next one and the one after that you want to
right.
see.
That's right.
And in fact, they've already written the next one and the one after that, haven't they?
The next
All
one
of
starts
them are
shooting very
written.
soon.
Wait, what did you say, JJ?
The next one starts shooting very soon.
But you're not directing that.
I'm not directing.
Uh-huh. And so you've read that script.
I have.
You will produce that one.
I'm an executive producer on the movie, yes.
Yeah. And how many? That sounds like a lot of work, too.
And George Lucas has seen none of this.
Fuck him. Right, JJ?
No. He's been very generous. He really has.
Has he? What do you mean generous? In other words, let's keep. Disney probably said, keep this fucking guy off the set. Am I correct?
No, it couldn't be more wrong. He's been amazing. He called me when I was first signed on to do it and said, you do this thing, this will be your thing.
But you didn't clear the script with him.
No, we went and met with him. We talked about what we were doing with the story.
Because he could fuck everything up. I mean, who's going to listen to him at this point? I mean,
not true.
True, he's the creator, but okay, enough with him. Let's get
Well,
him
he
out.
also created Jar Jar Binks,
That's
so
right,
you know,
yeah.
you have to
No,
get that.
George has been great. And look, everything that we're doing, obviously, is standing on the shoulders of all he's created.
By the way, how about George Lucas getting $4 billion with a B from Disney?
Amazing, right?
Isn't that something?
Unbelievable.
Do you think you'll ever get $4 billion? What do you want? Tell everybody, brag a little bit. Who's worth more, you or Spielberg?
You gotta be kidding me.
I'm not kidding you at all. I'm thinking Star Trek alone.
No, please. No.
You got a percentage of the gross? Yes?
Yes.
Right?
That sounds like Lloyd Braun.
And Lost, you got percentages? Right? Am I right? Right? So let's add it up.
No.
If you don't have money, who does?
Oh, please.
Well, Spielberg has
What?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, right? How many franchises you got? Got Star Trek, Star
Have
Wars?
your parents seen Star Wars?
No.
Really?
My parents don't have a computer. All right.
A machine.
But you know,
The machine.
But when you were a kid and you went and saw Star Wars, you didn't do it.
I saw Star Wars, I think, when I was in college.
Oh, really?
I'm guessing that's when I saw it. My parents are not the type to go to the
I'm
movies.
just curious.
No.
How's
no. They're doing fine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe I'll take them to your Star Wars. You say, do they need a background in Star Wars?
Absolutely not.
You
No.
sure?
Like I said, the main characters of the story, they don't know the world of Star Wars, so the whole thing is being told.
JJ, they're predicting a $500-something million first weekend.
preposterous.
You got, and you know what?
Ridiculous.
You know what that pressure is? So let's say you make $450 million the first
Huge
weekend.
disappointment.
Right.
That's right. They'll paint you as a loser.
Here's the thing: it can never be the first time. It can never be as good. It can never be as big. It's just all these expectations need to be tempered.
Do you approve all the merchandising on the new characters and things?
No, I mean they run all the stuff by us, but we don't have approval rights to that stuff.
Avatar is the highest grossing film
Of all time.
of,
Yeah.
it's 2.78 billion.
Oh my God!
That's what you've got to do here, pal.
Please.
No offense, you took on the Star Wars franchise. Let's go.
Right.
Right.
I just want people to like the movie. These numbers.
They're
are
going to
silly.
like it.
These numbers are silly.
I'm sure it's going to be great. If it's even half as good as Star Trek, it'll be great.
Oh, you're very sweet.
You know what I'm saying?
Is there going to be another Star Trek movie?
Right? Right?
There will be one, right?
Right? How much will that gross and what will you get? Right?
Justin Lin just directed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at all these guys. Never heard of these guys, but if you say they're good, then that's fine. Yeah.
He's terrific.
Let me say something in closing here, JJ. I do wish I'll tell you what. I want to thank you for all of the hours of entertainment you have given America. I love artists. I love guys who are talented like you, take on big projects, and you know what? You make life fun.
Oh, thank you.
And that's what I'm thanking you for doing that.
You amazing.
That's right. And you've done it all in Hollywood except adopt a black child. When are you going to do that?
We're going to do it soon, right?
Right? Will you adopt a black child like Angelina Jolie?
Where's
Right?
your black child coming from?
Right? Will you get it from a lolly like Madonna? Or not? Right? Have you ever given any thought to adopting a black child?
We have 3 children. We have not discussed adoption yet.
All right, think about it. Star Wars, The Force Awakens, that's the greatest thing to do in Hollywood. Adopt black people. I know it. And
That's not me. That'll give you your shot.
right? Star Wars, The Force Awakens, directed by J.J. Abrams, opening in theaters
Force
everywhere on
Awakens,
Friday,
yeah.
December 18th. And we look forward to it. And the box office, the business behind the movie. All right, there you go. JJ, thank you.
Always great to be here.
Great to see you here. And we'll be back
Pleasure.
right after these words, right? Right? Okay.